going to try and just turn. Jan, the dogs are yawning for two reasons. One is the dogs are yawning obviously to get oxygen into the lungs. They've been lying down for quite some time. The oxygen helps just to circulate and get rid of any lactic acid buildup from lying down for long periods of time. And it's much like us, it preps them to get air in to be able to move after spending time in a relaxed position. So it's just to oxygenate the blood and get them to be able to move around a little bit, and that's why they're yawning. It's nothing other than that. Now everybody is up and moving. Let's see where they're going to go. Still south at the moment. So I think Impala Plains is where we're going to head to. Hopefully there's going to be some Impala on Impala Plains, because, well, then we're going to see dogs hunting on Impala Plains. I think they're now going to get into basically a movement where they're going to start hunting. You'll see a dog is going up on a termite mound, so just to scan around, just to see what's happening around them, making sure if there isn't any sign of prey items that they could potentially hunt. So there's that dog up at the top there, just looking. You see how it's using height as its advantage to get up a little bit taller to see what's happening. Yes, dogs run that way. Now they're starting to run in a more southwesterly direction, deeper into Djuma, which is what I want. I don't want them running the opposite way and going away from us. We've got quite a big thicket to negotiate here, so it's going to be difficult to keep up with these guys. We're going to try, and our relaxed, calm sighting we were referring to earlier is about to change rapidly. It's about to become the typical wild dog bouncing around through the thickets, following them as they trot around looking for prey animals, which is, well, the best way to follow them. I love it when the dogs start getting going. It makes me absolutely smile. I love the way that they move around and they bounce around and they're happy to kind of chase and go in different directions. And what they're going to basically do is move like this, and they're going to flush varying. Oh, there's a hyena, they're busy chasing hyena. So a big hyena is just being chased there. Now the rest of the pack is coming to the aid of that one. It's the hyena, I think, has realized I'm not going anywhere near this lot and just ran as quickly as it can from here. But let's see, maybe this is not the end of this particular situation. But that hyena was just lying in the bush. It wasn't on a carcass, it was literally just lying down in the grass. And it just goes to show that hyenas are not always individuals that den. They are animals that will also just lie out in places like this. They don't spend all their time around a termite mound. But that hyena can be lucky. It's escaped fairly easily. So I think the hyena is at this stage gone quickly. Yes, that hyena disappeared very quickly. I think it knew 13 against 1, not a good idea. If you're a hyena, you're going to get bitten and maimed and hurt, and so better just get out of that area as quick as possible. You can see the dogs all just now sitting and kind of taking it in and just checking if there isn't any more hyenas or maybe some sort of sign of food. But here we go. We're going to start moving again now. I want the hyena to come back, just in terms of I want to see how it plays out if it does. So Jackie, the biggest problems for dogs in terms of predation is probably lions, and they probably the worst out of all of them. But hyena and leopard are also a big problem, especially in the younger dogs. You'll find that the puppies in particular are ones that do get hit by those animals. But lions is pretty much the #1 threat for these guys. There has been reports of crocodiles as well going after them, but generally it's the lions. I'm just trying to find a way that I can view these dogs without having to block the view of the guys behind us. I'm letting them just have a chance to go through, because, well, this is how it works when we're out here, is everyone just gets a little bit of a gap and we give each other a chance to kind of be the ones in front with the dogs themselves, and to be able to actually watch the dogs and to be able to kind of see what goes on. So it's always good just to work hand in hand in conjunction with each other. Dogs are now slowing right down a little bit and really taking it a bit easier. So this is what does happen with them when they are on these afternoon hunts, is they kind of will stop a little bit, they'll settle, they'll kind of take it easy for a bit, and then they'll go off running. So it's not a period of sustained running all the time unless they've come across some sort of target. But you can see they're kind of just shifting, moving, they're feeling out what's going on around them, seeing if there isn't any prey animals. And now is the time that it would have been nice for these impalas to have been around, because earlier the impalas were here and they all just scattered when the dogs were still sleepy. But if the impalas were here now, I can tell you that those impalas would be getting chased heavily by these dogs. But we still continue to go in a southerly direction. I think we're going to cross over fairly shortly. The boundary is not very far. We're running parallel with the Arathusa boundary at the moment, so I'm pretty sure we are going to eventually cross it this afternoon. Just depends obviously on what they come across. If they come across impalas and impalas run east, they'll run east. If impalas run north, they'll run north. If impalas run south, they'll run south. It just obviously is always very dependent on that particular animal and which way it goes as to which way the pack will end up moving. But what interests me is every time they get towards a clearing, that's when they kind of hesitate and stop a little bit. It's little open patches. Whenever they're in a thicket, they try and negotiate it quite quickly, and that's because they do get caught on thickets quite regularly or by other predators. We're talking about lions and various other things, and so better for them to try and get through those and onto more open sections before they actually start crossing over. So you can see they are now heading towards a road and heading still southwest. So here is the power lines, and I think they're going to take these power lines and go straight west from here and into Simambili, I think is where they're going to be heading if they take the power lines west, which is what they're doing by the looks of things, which is not ideal for us. I was hoping that they were going to turn more south from here, but their definite direction is more to the west. So they're going to try and just keep up with them. So we're going to just let Chris go first, and then we'll follow in behind him. Right, let's try and shoot round to the other side here so we can just keep up with these guys and at least get some view of them as they mill around in this particular clearing. I think if they're going to stop there. So it seems like they're going to cross over, and interesting now that they've come here at this time. Had it been a few months ago, this would have been a very interesting process that we would have gone through, because this is where the youngest Nkuma female was denning, and that would have been an absolute disaster for those little cubs, because these dogs, even though lions are their number one predator, if they came across lion cubs, they most certainly would have a go at them and try and hammer them. So interesting that those cubs, they're not here now, but it would have been a really crazy sighting to have watched these wild dogs, because they certainly would have gone after those little cubs if they found them. They're running, they're chasing something, so just hold on everybody, just hold on, we're just going to see where they're going. They have just decided to chase something. Now I'm trying to keep up with them, but it's so dense in here. So I'm trying to see, they obviously on the other side now, they're chasing something there. I can't see what it is. Careful Senzo, this is going to get quite rough. We're trying to negotiate a thicket, lots of fallen over trees, lots of little stumps, as well as a drainage section, and trying to keep up with them, but it's not really that easy when they run the speed that they run. And you can see how they go from fairly sedate to absolutely chaotic in the space of 2 seconds. So I'm going to try and keep up, but they ran west. The last I saw them was in this general vicinity, so hopefully I can catch up with them here. There they are, they're now crossing towards Arathusa, but whatever they tried to chase, they've unfortunately must have missed. There must have been something small like a duiker or a steenbok. You can see the pack's now spread out here and they've stopped running, so they've obviously missed whatever it was that they were going after. That was cool, that was a bit chaotic and quite crazy. Just hold on, somebody needs to get hold of me on the radio. Go ahead. Yeah, AFM, they just static now. They've obviously missed whatever they were chasing, but they're still static here under these quarries. So they're just looking around. Everybody's kind of looking in different directions. And just trying to see if they're going to carry on moving, or if they're going to actually spend more time sitting. It looks as though they might just rest for a little bit after a bit of a chase before they start going. But we're going to keep up with them and see. Hopefully they change direction and head deeper into Djuma and not into Arethusa. And while we do that, I believe Taylor McCurdy, I think, is still with their lions. I couldn't hear Lou very well between the game drive radio, the wind, and, well, just my excitement because I'm shouting at myself. So hopefully she has something interesting for all of you guys to look at.
And it has even got a pink sort of tinge still covering its body. Now, there was another elephant there. She's just also moved off. Very protective over this little one. Maybe it's the daughter of this big cow. And she won't leave its side. It was actually quite amazing. They were standing together, huddled up. Which makes me think that this little elephant is only a couple of days old. Now, first things first, because I thought it was maybe brand new, because the fact that it's still a little bit pink. First thing I did was I looked if there was any secretions between the cow's back legs, but sadly there aren't, and that little one isn't particularly wet either. So I think it's probably maybe a day or two old. Oh, no, you're still maybe you're even newer than that. Maybe you're from very early this morning. Or last night. You see that? Very, very wobbly. Just about standing on its tippy toes. Trying to suckle now. Oh, that's amazing. That really is amazing. It's the first time we've seen it move. It's just been standing, suckling. The fact that it's so wobbly on its legs. Maybe it was only born yesterday. It is very small. Oh, that is amazing. It would also explain why this other cow will be so protective and wanting to make sure that that little one is always between the two of them. I am absolutely in love with these animals. I mean, just to see an interaction like this is just to die for. It really is amazing. It doesn't even know how to use its feet yet. No, it's very young, this little elephant. Oh, that is so precious. It's not very often that you get to see an elephant that's, maybe less than 24 hours old. Yeah, no. The fact that it can barely walk makes me think. Now, it doesn't take them long to get up and get onto their feet, eventually, in comparison to us. But, oh no. I've just heard the sound of my sunglasses falling to their death at the bottom of the car. It's going to be fun trying to find them again. Anyways, now, Sinek, you're wondering if elephant's skin is sensitive to heat and sun. It most certainly is, and it's one of the reasons why they go and have mud baths and they cover themselves, is to try and keep themselves cool, and it's also basically a natural sunblock too, to cover yourself in mud, and it's a 3-in-1, I suppose. It helps keep you cool, protects you from the sun, and it also suffocates any parasites that are on the body, any ticks or anything like that. So it's actually really good mud. We should be using it more, I reckon. Maybe I'm going to start caking myself in mud for the afternoon safari so I don't get attacked by so many midges all the time. Now, Megsta, you're wondering if little elephants will be covered in mud by their moms or if they'll do it themselves. Well, it depends on how well they can use their trunk, but the first time a young elephant goes to a watering hole, normally a little bit weary. I find that they put their feet in it, but they won't really be drinking the water. They might try, but at only a couple of days old, they really won't have any strength to control the water being sucked up into their trunk. So it's more just getting used to the water and experiencing water for the first time. Now, what I have seen little elephants do that haven't been able to throw mud on themselves is to just lay down in it and then, wriggle around on their sides and then get up and do the same thing and then roll over to the other side and wriggle around, and then they're quite content with covering themselves in mud like that. But remember, they're also walking around in mom's shadow the entire time. For the first few months of their life. So I've actually watched the elephants out here. It's really interesting, in fact, how they will all follow mom and they sort of stick behind her, but on the side that's forming or casting the shadow where the shade is falling, and they'll just use her as an umbrella basically, which I thought was very sweet. We're very lucky to have seen that. Wow, we've been very spoiled the last couple of days, but it's been really, really amazing. Isn't that just incredible? I mean, I wish I knew exactly how old that little elephant is, but I mean, it's very difficult to tell, but the fact that I can't get over it, that it's still wobbly on its feet. Jamie would be in absolute awe right now. I know that she enjoys special sightings like this. Now, Eduardo, you're wondering, how did that elephant lose a tusk? I don't think that it lost it. I think it was just born like that. From what I can see, it's actually not uncommon at all to see elephants with no tusk or one tusk. Sort of a genetic mutation that I suppose happens. Maybe she has broken it off at the folds of the skin, but I couldn't see anything protruding. It's very difficult to see something like that. So, and that could have just been defending her youngsters from a bull, trying to push a big bull away because he's getting a bit too frisky. But if you go down to where I'm from, the southeast coast of South Africa, it's actually not uncommon at all to see elephants with no tusks whatsoever. Not so bad. Feel sorry for them in the Sabi sand though if they don't have any tusks, because they use them to help dig for water, strip bark off of trees. You know, here they're feeding mainly on grass. I think the question was Richard, and it was sorry, I just had a moment there where I heard it and went in one ear and out the other. If you find a tusk on the ground, what do you do with it? Is the question from Richard. Well, it depends on the area, I suppose. I actually don't know what the protocol would be, to whether they'd leave it or whether they would take it and put it in storage. I mean, there's a couple of pieces of ivory that you find every now and then that have been chipped off from tusks from bulls fighting, and we just leave them out in the bush where, well, theoretically they should be safe out there, but of course we know that people will pick them up and try and sell bits and pieces. So sometimes they'll collect it if it's a poached animal, so if an animal that's been illegally taken down, and then the authorities will confiscate the ivory. Oh, shame. It's so thirsty. It's been a very hot day today as well. So it's probably a little bit on the exhausted side. But we're going to let this little one suckle through and into the night. And we're going to go and search for the Angamas. Jamie has beat us to it. She's still got her lions. And they're laying under a beautiful sky.
They are laying under a beautiful sky indeed. In fact, it really is a truly spectacular sunset, and it kind of makes up for the fact that I'm not enjoying that baby elephant sighting with Tayla, but I'm glad that she's had it. It's such a special thing to experience. Those tiny, tiny little baby elephants. We've got sort of tiny baby lions, not tiny, tiny. And the lionesses are definitely the tiredest. There's two little ones, or there's one little one. The lionesses are definitely occasionally showing the smallest signs of stirring. The odd ear twitch, the odd yawn. One of them even got up and had a perfunctory vomit. And I think they're going to be up relatively shortly, before even the end of the sunset safari. They're definitely empty-bellied, which surprises me. It makes me wonder, when I see empty bellies like this on lionesses when they're surrounded by wildebeest, it makes me wonder what the boys have been up to. I know that the 4-kilometer boys were here. Oh gosh. I can't remember when I was here with this pride a couple of days ago. I haven't seen them and I haven't heard any word of them today. A lion can eat around about between 5 to 10% of their body weight in one sitting. So in the case of a lion, or lioness, you're looking at around about, let's say that these lions they're bulky cats. These females are pretty well-built ladies. And you're looking at probably, I would say, 120, 130 kilograms, possibly even more. So you're looking at around about 12 to 13 kilograms of meat. I would say even more than that, actually. I would say that she could probably eat close to 15 to 20 kilograms of meat in one sitting, which, when you think about it, means that the larger the pride, the more the kills sort of don't really last them all that long, particularly a wildebeest, where a lot of that wildebeest weight is made up in bone, which of course the lions can't really do anything with, and fur, and indigestible stomach contents. So really, it's no surprise actually that they have to kill more than once in one night to keep a large pride fed. I discovered recently, I should have known this, but I did a little bit of extra research, and a cheetah can eat 10 kilograms of meat in one sitting. That's a very lucky cheetah. That is a cheetah that's had the opportunity to sit and feed properly without being harassed by a hyena. I would say that the boys that we sat with last night only really ate around about 5 kilograms or so of that topi before they lost it to the lions. So a big male lion sitting at around about 200 kilograms, I would say could eat about 25 kilograms of food. Aiden, who is 6 years old. Aiden, it's lovely to hear from you. Now, Aiden, I think, must have a cat, because Aiden is wondering whether the lions like catnip. Aiden, funny thing is, apparently some lions do. Now, I've never tried this before, and I've always kind of wanted to. But one of the ways that researchers sometimes get information, particularly about leopards, is they actually put a catnip down, and then they put up a camera trap. So a camera that takes a picture every time it sees that there's movement. And I know that leopards love catnip. I don't know whether all lions like catnip, but I do know that some lions like catnip. I would love to do it. I would never do it because they're wild lions, and I mean, I have no excuse to do it. It would just be for the sheer fascination of seeing them respond to catnip. Oh, big yawn. Ah, it's an old girl. You see how yellow and worn her teeth are. She looks to me to be one of the older ladies of this particular pride. Tatty ears. It looked like she had, quite yellow teeth, not too worn. Licking her lips. Fergus, was that the same one that wasn't feeling so well earlier? I think it is. I think it's the same lioness that ejected a very small amount of what looked like, actually, to be honest, pure bile. It didn't look like she had anything in her stomach to throw up. I didn't see any kind of hairball or chips of bone or anything come out like that. Ah, Robin. I actually, as soon as I heard Alice's voice, I had a feeling that was going to be Robin's question. They do. Lions do eat grass when they do feel unwell, just like your cats and dogs at home. Usually if you see a lion eating grass, it's because they're feeling not particularly healthy, and they will actually make themselves, I don't know if it helps to make them throw up so much as it might help to settle their stomach or tickle the back of their throats. And often, very often, when you find lion vomit, you'll find pieces of grass in it. One thing that I've noticed, I personally, in my time out here, I've not often seen a full lion throw up. I've seen them cough up hairballs, but I've not often seen them get properly ill when their stomachs are full. The number of times that I've seen a lion vomit have usually been when they're hungry. And I wonder whether or not the hunger pains and the sort of the buildup of stomach acid might cause a reaction or cause a more sensitive stomach. For those of you that watch regularly, excuse me, those of you who watch regularly, if you look back on the times you've seen the kahumas vomit or the other lions vomit, I'm almost certain it's usually been with a relatively empty stomach. LM, lions vomit for a couple of different reasons. A lot of the time it's because they've eaten something relatively indigestible, and something like a large shard of bone that's just blocking everything up, and they just need to bring it all up in order to remove it. Obviously, they're not nearly so as fragile as a human being, so they don't really get bad food poisoning. They eat rotten meat all the time, so it's not something that comes from something like that. They also have a vast number of parasites in their digestive tract, an enormous number. You should never ever handle a lion without gloves. If you're ever in that sort of situation where perhaps you're assisting with a darting or something like that, you should ideally be wearing gloves, because they are parasite ridden to the nth degree, and their saliva is of course exceptionally bacteria filled. or at least not their saliva, their mouths are filled with bacteria. And a lot of the time those tapeworms and internal parasites actually upset the stomach as well. Again, if you look through lion vomit, as I have done on the odd occasion, first of all, it is particularly pungent, so good luck with that. And secondly, it often contains evidence of either completely whole or partial worms. And if they've got a bad infestation, sometimes that does upset their stomach as well. On the sort of the reverse end, just to complete this topic of conversation, on the reverse end of that, typically when a lion has diarrhea, you'll find that it's because it's just eaten. So the opposite of what I said about the vomiting, you'll find that it's when the lion's just eaten, and that the richness of the organs, things like the liver and the kidneys and the lungs, tend to pass through the lions very quickly. So you'll often see lions around a kill with diarrhea. Beautiful. Way to work up an appetite, huh, Ferg? Really looking forward to those sandwiches. Shall we have a look at the beautiful sunset and change the topic ever so slightly? It is a beautiful sunset. Wow. Andrea? It's a difficult question. Andrea's wondering about my favorite lion pride in the Mara. Obviously, I can't say the Ridge Pride. This is only the third time that I've ever seen them. I think that the more time we spend with lions, it's just natural that they become our, I guess you could call them our favorites. We certainly have more of an attachment to the members of the prides that we spend more time with. So I would say that I am quite attached to the Angamas and the Sausage Tree Pride. I really have a soft spot for young males, and I really miss those two young males that we used to see along the, just sort of to the south of the escarpment. Bless you. Big sneeze from one of the lionesses. Hard to choose favorites, though. I think it's just purely, I mean, there's nothing to really differentiate them. It's just purely because we spend more time with them and we get to know them individually. I spent most of my first month here with the Angamas, and most of my second month, I would say, with the Sausage Tree Pride. Chrissy, I'm afraid to say, no, I have not seen a Barbary lion. So, Barbary lions were lions that were well adapted to living in particularly cold climates, particularly heavy manes in those sorts of areas. If you have a look, if you Google Barbary lions, I can't obviously show you one because these are not Barbary lions. If you have a look at their manes, they are pretty much the double the size of the manes in this particular area. So the Barbaries were up in North Africa, and unfortunately they do not roam over the northern part of the African continent anymore. They are now extinct, as far as I know, in the wild. So the Barbary lions further up north, very, very thick manes, and are unfortunately extinct. I've never seen one. The last one apparently was killed in 1920. Robin, no, I have not. While we watch the sunset on another day here in the Mara and chatting about new life, no, I have never seen a lion cub being born. It is something I would love to see. I think it's something highly unlikely to be able to see. The only thing I've ever seen being born was not in real life. Well, it was in real life, but I wasn't there in real life. It was when I was at university, sitting watching Africam back in the early days of Africam, and I was sitting in the UK dreaming of warmer climes, and I was watching the camera that had been set up in a cheetah in a rehabilitation center that had given birth. But But no, I have never seen a wild lion being born. I've never come close to it. And that's because they're private creatures about it. They go off into impossible, impenetrable places. And for us to follow them there would be probably highly unethical, actually. Unless the circumstances were exactly right. We did, of course, come very close to seeing the birth of Kruger's leopard cubs. We nearly saw the birth of Shungila and Hosanna. Anyway, I don't know what the surprise is, but I hear it's got spots. Let's go back to Tristan.
Well, we are slowly but surely making our way towards Chitwa to try and test if we can see any sign of Thandi and try and find her in this area and see if there's actually going to be signal. So that's going to be the idea anyway. But I can hear about 40 people taking standbys for something. No one wants to really answer me on anything, so I'm going to just try and see if I can keep radio until somebody gives me an idea of whether I can go to Thandi or not. The good news, and probably the best news, is that we have this afternoon is that there's tracks for Shadow and the Cub on Djuma. So the two of them, their tracks were together. They were on around Philemon's cut line and they made a kill. They killed what looks like a rather large impala. Unfortunately, the hyenas were naughty and stole it, and so their tracks are still drifting around in that area, and Rexon is trying to track her, but at least we know that the cub is alive and the female leopards are back on Djuma. So I saw a couple posts the last few days where people think that people are trying to kill our leopards and that the female leopards are gone and that Djuma's changed their traversing, and that's just not true. It's just simply the way it goes. These leopards do move around, and at the end of the day, Shadow has been spending a lot of time south. She often does, and Thandi, well, she's clearly been at Chitwa, so they are around, they are fine. The female, the cub is fine, which is fantastic news, and hopefully that means we're going to get a couple sightings of them over the next few days. It's good news that they are in that area, and with this weather, even if she lost her kill today, maybe she'll be able to make another one with the weather like this. So good news all in all. Now I want to quickly just get hold of the guys because they're calling me back. The station calling Tristan, come in. Because if Thandi is going to be a crazy lineup, then I think I'm going to try and go and see Tumba instead, because well, his tracks, I mean, he was found very close to where we had him this morning, or where we had the monkeys alarm calling, and so, you know, if there's going to be 10 people around Chitwa, then I'm going to try and avoid that section as much as possible, because it will just be chaos and we're going to have nowhere really to go. Is there any station copy me in the east? Can I get a lineup on Thandi, please? Copy that. Any other updates for the east? And so there we go, we can actually go to Thandi, there's nobody even there. Perfect. So nothing to stress about, we'll head in that direction. Like I say, the chances of getting the kind of signal in that area is going to be touch and go. It's going to be a good test of our new system, and hopefully we will get signal. I can't guarantee it, but I am hoping that we will, because that will then just continue our cat run a little longer. Now unfortunately we didn't get the hyena on screen just now, but otherwise if we did, it would have completed our big predators for the day, which would have been quite nice. I don't know, has anybody in the Mara seen any of the hyenas today? I don't know, have they? Maybe they have, maybe they haven't, I'm not sure. I didn't think they saw them this morning. I will tell you one thing though, it is absolutely freezing driving down this road. It is not very pleasant at all. It is cold, windy, and the road is so open that we're just getting pelted by horrible wind at this stage. So I'm looking forward to getting out of this into the Mulawanini. Now, while I try and make my way towards Thandi and try and see if I can find some sort of signal and get into that area, I believe Tayla McCurdy is moving around. She's got her tawny coloured cats and they are on the hunt.
So guess who we found? The Angama Pride. And I'm very glad that we decided not to go the other side of the lugger. So actually it came on the western side of the lugger, which is where they were this morning. We were sitting on the eastern side when we had them, And I'm glad, because firstly we got the elephant. How beautiful was that? And now we've got the zebra on our side too. And about a minute ago, and the lionesses realized that there was some zebra approaching them, and they seem to be completely oblivious as to, well, what's lurking in the grass to the east of them. So this could be quite exciting, definitely quite prosperous for a little bit later. Let's see. They're only just starting to wake up now, so you know what it's like when you've been in a deep slumber and all of a sudden someone comes charging in and tries to wake you up. You're a little bit bewildered, and I think that's what's happened with these lions now, is they're just sort of shocked. Okay, cool, there's food coming towards us. Now I need to wipe the sleep from my eyes and do a bit of a stretch and have a cup of coffee, and then perhaps they will start making their way towards us, which will be good, and we'll be waiting here with the zebra. So that is the plan for this afternoon. The zebra just heads down in the grass, bottoms facing in the complete opposite direction, barring one zebra, which concerns me slightly, because we know how fantastic zebra's eyesight is, and if that zebra is to spot the lions, it's going to be game over for all of the cats, and they'll have to try and catch something else a little bit later. But pretty cool though, nonetheless, to see. I wonder if they're eyeing out this young foal. If anything, this youngster is going to be the easiest one to catch. That's going to be the one to watch out for. Darkness needs to fall upon us quickly. Now, apparently you all think that that lion looks pretty hungry. Yeah, I think so. And here's another young zebra foal. Well, not particularly young, probably coming on 2 years old now. Also heading to regroup to the rest of the herd. So there's plenty pickings here. Come on, girls. Here we go. The warden is now ushering the other cars, saying, right, it's time for you to go. And this is where we're so lucky, is that now this entire sighting is just for us. Nobody else is in it. So we're going to keep our distance. This is a non-off-roading area, so it's not like we can go bundu bashing. Oh, it's a long time since I said the word bundu bashing. We definitely do not enough bundu bashing here. Well, not enough. It's actually quite nice to give it a bit of a break. Oh, zebra, you're going in the wrong way. Well, the lions, that's what the lion's saying. Not me. I don't mind which way they go. Now, Vay, you're wondering if lions would ever resort to cannibalism? If an old lion, say, became desperate and... I wouldn't put it past them. Hyenas most certainly practice cannibalism. I don't think I'd put it past the starving lion. I think that might be the case. You know, if it's a pride of healthy lions that have recently eaten and one dies, I'm going to probably leave it alone. I haven't heard of there being a case of healthy lions feeding on, another lion. But I think when desperation comes through, that's that sort of natural instinct, that drive to eat, that hunger. I don't think any of us watching the show are very lucky enough to experience starvation. But when that starts to set in, I think that it will drive you to do things that you normally wouldn't do. Oh, careful where you put your nose. It's a bit rude, don't you think? No, I'm just teasing. It's normal for the zebra. Oh, and the Angama's now watching their food walk away for them. We know they caught a wildebeest, but for 3 male lions that were there this morning, as well as the lionesses and cubs, it might not be too much. Okay, we've got some movement now. Maybe they were just observing, planning. Maybe she's off to tell the other lionesses, right, wake up, ladies. It's time to go. And I think we're going to stick to our guns here. I think we're going to just hold on a little bit and just stick this side. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if we do go the other way, and we'll be right on top of the lions because they're right next to the road, if they do decide to cross that lugger and come here, we're in so much trouble. It's going to take us 8 minutes, I think I timed it the last time, at racing to get round. So it's not exactly like it's a quick loop. It's the scenic way around, and there is only a scenic way around. So we might have to opt for the long distance visuals for the moment and hope that this will be the best decision. Ooh, there's fighting going on amongst the lions. There's the male. Go to the left. He's just running through those trees. I don't know what just happened there. I just heard growling. Actually, the zebras alerted me to that. Their heads all popped up and turned back and then I heard no, that doesn't even sound like a growl, but it was quite aggressive. So, and clearly that male there is showing his dominance. It looks like he's maybe scent marking on the ground. Maybe there's a female that's coming into estrus and the boys are battling it out now as to who's going to get mating rights first. But now you've ruined it, because now the zebra know you there. Sometimes, lions, you can be very silly when you want another meal. You hear the zebra, they're unhappy now. They're saying, we see you. And the zebra will probably try and move as far away from these lions as possible now, especially under the cover of darkness. Hey, male just greeting one of the lionesses. She's being quite flirty. He's such a nice looking lion. So that's one of the triangle boys, or Chitwa males, and he's known as tailless, but he's only missing the tip of his tail. That was the zebra again, alarming. And now any other animals that were in the area, maybe the buffalo can hear them from here too. They can all understand the zebra. Yeah, zebra are now running away. Where are they going? Off they go. Well, not where they're going. Clever zebra. Because those lions could just end up re-stalking them again if they don't put enough distance between them. Lions, are you going to come this way? Please come this way. I'm just watching them moving around now. Scanning to see if anyone else is sneaking off. It doesn't seem like it. Goodness, he stands out like a sore thumb, that black mane above the golden grass. Yeah, so I think, let's see, he's very keen on one of the lionesses, so possibly there's one girl that's about to pop into estrus. Maybe. Let's see, Flim grimacing. We all love that lion smile, don't we? Now take care, you're wondering if animals ever fall in love. It's a very difficult question for me to answer, unfortunately, because, like I said, if I could talk to the animals, I would ask them all these things. But unfortunately, I can't, and I don't know if there's a way that people can tell something like that. We obviously see animals getting having strong bonds with one another. For instance, a mother and their newborn, or for instance, some of the strongest bonds we see are between hyenas, lions, and particularly my favorite animal, the elephants. So I suppose, I don't know. Take care. That's a hard one to answer. Unfortunately, it's like asking, what is that lion thinking? Well, okay, with his actions, I could put together that all he was thinking about is finding the next female that's in estrus that he can mate with, but that's a fairly easy one. But something like that, fall in love, I think a little bit more complex. I don't know if I can answer it. Right, lions, where are you off to? What is the plan? Where shall I meet you? Oh, they're coming straight towards us. Fantastic. Good cats. Very clever. There's a lioness just quite far to the left of this male. And I think she's already crossed the luggy, yeah, looks like it. So this is fantastic. Now, the direction that she's looking in, there are there's quite a large herd of buffalo, but we know their experiences with buffalo normally ends with them running for their lives. Just seeing if I can see anything else. There's no other zebra around. They've all moved off. There were big herds of zebra around here. And trying to think, did I see anything else coming this way? I didn't. It was actually, the land is quite bare. Maybe if they go towards the escarpment, they'll find the 6 wildebeest that are now left, or was it 5? There are some more zebra against the escarpment, of course, the buffalo, and I'm sure there'll be a couple of topi lurking about too. But I'm glad that they've decided to come to us. They're making my job very easy today, well, mine and Manu's job. So thank you, lions, and it seems like there are going to be a few more that follow her too, which is nice. Isn't this great? I love sitting with lions and watching them. Obviously, you can only watch lions for so long. I don't know if she's coming to estrus, because I just saw her as she popped out. Her mammary glands look slightly swollen already. Or maybe he was just checking. Just, popping in, seeing how things are going. Perhaps that's what was happening. Hello, girl, you look hungry, don't you? Your eyes look very focused, but I don't know what they're focused on. She's marching straight towards us. Now, I thought I'd seen a couple more follow. Actually, while you look at her, where's my binoculars? Let me try and have a quick look. No, You can't do this all on your own. You can't hunt for the entire pride by yourself. That's a little bit selfish. She's coming here. Hopefully her assertiveness will rub off on the rest of them. They'll all just get up and do exactly the same thing. Oh, she's contact calling. Probably saying, hurry up. We're supposed to have dinner at 7:30. And we're going to be late. There's traffic. Who knows? Right, we're going to definitely stick with these lovely lions of the Angama Pride and see where they end up. Tristan, however, has got a spotted surprise.
Well, when driving around the Sabi sands and driving around areas like this, you would think that a leopard would be an easy animal to spot. But right in this picture, there is a leopard, I will tell you that. We do have a spotted surprise for all of you. But I challenge anybody to find a leopard in this photograph, or in that frame that we've got now. It took Senzo, I don't know how long, and it was only until I pointed out to him where the leopard is. And it's difficult because of the light that we've got today. It is dark, it is dingy, it is not easy to see at all. But I'm going to ask Senzo to slowly zoom to where that leopard is and give you a tighter sort of angle. No, not there, Senzo. So to go in towards the leopard. No, not there either. But over there we go. Hidden in the branches is the beautiful Thandi. So she is absolutely almost invisible. If it wasn't for her tail dangling, I reckon 9 out of 10 people would drive right past her. It's just her tail that's giving her away, and that one paw that is down. Where she's lying, it is very dark. The camera doesn't give you an idea of just how dark it is inside there. So her foot and her tail are the only thing that actually gave her away and was, well, where we were able to spot her. If it wasn't for that, I think I would have literally driven right past where she was. So pretty cool though that we have found her and that we can spend time with her and that we have signal. There's a joyous occasion, and our cat streak continues, and well, all the big cats have then been seen today as well as the wild dogs, and hopefully a hyena will be put on camera at some point and we will complete our big predator, well, list, if you want to call it that. I can't come up with a catchy phrase for it because, you know, we've got big cat trifecta, but we don't have a big predator catchy phrase. Maybe all of you can come up with a phrase for all the big predators in one day, and you can do hashtag Safari Live with the phrase that you want us to use when we talk about it. And she is really quite tucked up in there. I'm sure her kill must be in somewhere inside there as well. I believe she does have a kill. I have no idea what the kill is. Can you see it, Sensor? Is that it over there, or is that just the tree? No, I think that's just the tree. That's bits of cambium, I think. Maybe not. Maybe it is. Yes, it is. It dangling over there. The legs falling down. So well done, Senzo. Looks like a diker. Still quite a bit of meat in that general area, so she's going to be feeding for quite some time. I've stopped far away because it seems as though this is going to be one of the better views of her for now. Once we kind of get a little darker and it becomes harder for the camera, I will move closer and reposition myself slightly, but at least we have signal here and we have the ability to see her, and there you can see just how well camouflaged she actually is, and just the tail is what gives her away, and even the tail looks as though it blends in with that tree and as though it actually belongs there, and really you could drive past that every single time. Lily, in terms of spotting leopards, the thing is that, I mean, we've been lucky and a lot of them have been lying fairly out in the open, and that makes it quite easy. But I always find with leopards is when I pick them up is just subtle changes in the environment. So you just notice something that is not quite right, or there is a flick of that white tail, or there is, like in this situation, a dangling tail that just doesn't look quite right for the tree. It just doesn't look as though it belongs to the tree that well. Her paw does, but her tail doesn't. And so it's little small things like that that will give them away. But generally, and there are leopards that we've driven right past. Tumba, for example, this morning, I was searching for him where the monkeys were alarm calling. I was looking and looking and looking and looking, couldn't find any sign of him, and I eventually left to go to the wild dogs because they were all over the place at that stage, and we haven't seen dogs for a while. But the next vehicle that came, they drove right where I drove. They drove on my tracks and they found him quite easily. So it just goes to show that sometimes we do miss them as well, and their camouflage is such that they are an animal that you will drive past from time to time. But the biggest thing about here is that we are able to actually off-road, and we are actually able to track, and so we're able to then follow the footprints, and that leads us to them. So that's how we spot a lot of them, is actually by tracking them on foot and finding them that way. So it makes life a lot easier than actually just trying to spot them from distances away, because if she's down in the grass, you won't spot her in light like this. It is really too dark, and even now she's slowly but surely melting into that bush because of the darkness that she's in, and that the tightness of the crown of that tree is causing a very shadowed area, which means that it is incredibly dark. Even the camera itself is starting to struggle, and that's when you know it is quite dark. So I'll put a bit of light on for Senzo just to help him so that he doesn't have to have too much darkness in there. Of course, we will put on our IR lights just now so that we can stick with her, and hopefully we will have her at least feeding at some stage. If she comes down to feed, the carcass is in an area where we should be able to view her quite nicely and see her quite nicely feeding, so we'll wait for her to come down. If she doesn't come down, well, it will be okay. We'll still at least have her, and it's good to see one of our females again. We've had such a pleasant time with the two boys, but great that we have Thandi, and she's going to be here for, I would say, probably another day. There's enough on that carcass to keep her here for a day, but it shows most certainly that she is now leaving Tumba, because the fact that she's got a kill and she hasn't gone off to go and fetch him means that she's now gotten to the point where she's basically rejecting him and leaving him on his own, and no longer going to support him in feeding him. So it goes to show that for now, I think little Tumba is on his own, and the period that he had with his mom is coming to an end, because a leopard, when she's still looking after a cub, will never ever put a carcass in a tree like this and not go and fetch the cub. She would have gone back and fetched him, and we know that there's very few tracks for a leopard anywhere near Tumba that is for a female, and so it means that she's really not spending much time with him anymore, and this process of rejecting him and pushing him out to become independent has well and truly started. And so little Tumba, I'm afraid you're going to start having to be on your own for a bit. Kimmy, you say for our phrase competition, I think I get this right, a cavalcade of carnivores. Is that right, Lou? Have I said that right? I think I said that right. And that's actually quite cool. I quite like that. I quite like that name. It's got a nice roll of the tongue. So yes, maybe we can use that. Maybe let's see if we've got any others, and then we can decide. We'll ask Lou and Megan to help decide with all of it. But I like that one. That one's quite cool. James, a predator palooza. That's also quite cool. It's quite fun. I like that as well. Like I say, we're going to leave this one up to Lou and Megan, the directors, since they're the bosses of the game anyway. They kind of dictate what we do, and so they're going to have to be the deciding vote, the two ladies in FC. We don't give them much of a say normally, but today they're going to get to say as to exactly which one they want to use from now on. But I like both of those. I think those are both quite cool. So it's really nice to have, and it's crazy to think that we are coming up with names like this, because, you know, we were talking about it the other day, and a few months ago we were, you know, saying we would be joyful if we had one of the cats, and to have days now frequently where we're having all of them plus wild dogs plus hyena, it really is quite ridiculous that we have had this amount of sort of luck. And it just goes to show that when Mara and Sabi Sands are together, it really is an amazing amount of animals that are spread between the two locations, and they fit hand in hand with animals here that we can't quite see in the Mara and animals in the Mara that we don't really see here. It really does work very well together. So it's such a joy to see them. And I was going through photos of the sightings that Brent and Tayla had this morning, and they just had the most ridiculous sightings. Brent's little lion cubs were so cute, and well, Tayla's cheetah hunt was also something quite phenomenal. So, and as it sounds like this afternoon, it's just continuing on from where they left off this morning. So, and it seems to be having a wonderful time that side of the world. Now, one of us wasn't out this morning and didn't partake in our predator fiesta that we had this morning, and she is out this afternoon and is more than making up with it with her beautiful lions.
Well, I couldn't agree more with Tristan. It's always special when everything works out exactly the way we want it to, and we can share magical sightings from across the Mara and South Africa as well. And magic sightings just like this lioness, who is really just looking so sweet in the way that she's lying. Every now and again she gives her chest a little bit of a rub. There we go. Give it a bit of a scratch. Right down to have a belly rub too. I love it when they do that. And it gives you an idea of just how massive their paws are as well. And she couldn't look more contented. Look at that. Looks enormous on her rib cage. So the signs of movement are still there. But so far, our lionesses haven't shifted from where they are. I'm almost certain that they're going to be hunting tonight. So if not by the end of the sunset safari, then certainly on one of our Facebook Lives, I think it's safe to say. Well, barring anything unforeseen. I shouldn't have said that. I think.
I'm just going to do a quick IR switch.
Okay. Obviously, you can see it's getting to be quite dark, so Fergus is going to switch to the infrared, which of course means we will now be viewing things in black and white. There we go. Much better. That, for our new viewers, is, since I think this is probably the introduction of it, that is the way in which we are able to film these animals at night without disturbing the natural way of things. So there's certain situations where light is absolutely fine with nocturnal creatures, things like the lions and the leopards and the bat-eared foxes or whatever else we happen to encounter at night. Light is absolutely fine with them. Their eyes are more than capable of dealing with it. But there are certain situations where it is highly inappropriate. Little cubs being one example, and of course most importantly during the times when they're hunting. Essentially a bright spotlight or a bright light will dazzle the animals that they're hunting, causing if you have that light permanently on and directed at the animals that they're hunting, it will dazzle them, it will confuse them, and it'll make it much easier for the lions to catch them. We do every now and again flash our spotlight just to make sure that we're not going to upset the hunt. So just usually when the animals are far away, I just use my spotlight to very quickly flash past them and check and make sure I know exactly where everything is. Also to make sure we don't get ourselves into a vulnerable position where the wildebeest run towards us, or whatever it happens to be. But the infrared really does help us tremendously in terms of being able to follow and film them at night. I've also got my FLIR up and about. It's held together, the gimbal is held in place. The gimbal doesn't even have its battery and I've just held it in place with gaffer tape. But I've got my FLIR to keep track. Div, lovely to hear from you. Div is a new viewer. Div, I think we're about to see them hunt, to be completely honest with you. Something has attracted their attention. I think in the next half an hour or so we are going to see them hunt. Yes, absolutely. We've seen... We follow all of the stories of the animals here at Safari Live. So that means the times when they're fast asleep and the times when they're out searching for food. Since there's no neat grocery packaging, I don't see a thing there, Fergus, do you? No. But we've seen many, many, many hunts, whether they be leopard, lion, cheetah. We have been exceptionally fortunate, both in South Africa and here in the Mara. I mean, just the other day, Tristan had the most extraordinary sighting with Hosanna, the young male leopard, stalking impala, and getting so close to them. And I think that tonight we're going to be following them. So, Dev, if you're interested, we will be going live on Facebook if these lions are hunting after the sunset safari. Christine, as I said, I'm not 100% sure which pride this is. This area is... It's not the area that I know the best, let's just put it that way. So I strongly suspect that it is the Ridge Pride, or what a pride that a lot of people call the Ridge Pride, but I'm not completely sure of that. I'm not completely certain. I don't know them well enough to be able to say yes or no. I think they're the Ridge Pride. They're also known apparently as the Topi Plains Pride, and there's another name for them. They've been given another name as well. When we first arrived here, and it continues to this day, sifting through different names for different prides given by different people has always been quite a complex experience, because you don't really want to argue with a guide that has been here clearly for a very extended period of time and say to him, no, but I've been told this is the Ridge Pride, when he's telling me it's the Topi Pride, or the Topi Plains Pride. But as far as I know, it's the Ridge Pride. Lioness is slowly looking up. It is starting to Is it my eyes or is it looking very dark now? Ah, there we go. Thanks,
We've
Ferg.
been using ambient light.
Ah.
All right.
Aha! Fergus tells me we have now switched on the infrared lights. Before we were just utilizing the remaining ambient light. Now our infrared lights are on. Now these lights, when I look at them, all I see is a red glow. But a very faint red glow at that. So it's not the same as... Oh, what you see? What you see? What you after, little one? Little boy. Young male. What are you after? I think he's going to go chase birds or something like that. Birds or jackals. This is a very important part of the whole learning experience. I don't think he's seriously hunting the owls. I think he's trotting after a bird or something like that, or a jackal. Oh, whoops. Sorry. Didn't realize we were so close to the edge of our range. Okay, where's he gone? Where'd you go? Oh, here he comes, dashing back. There he is. That's him over there. I think he was after something small. Possibly a rodent, possibly a mongoose. I couldn't actually see exactly what it was he was after. But he's just come galloping, I think would be the best way to describe it. A young lion, full of the joys of spring, wanting to learn to hunt, not really knowing how to do it, and as a result, relatively ineffective. Actually looks like a young female, sorry. I thought it was the young male from earlier, but it looks like a young female. And that in the background, for those of you learning the geography of the region, is Lookout Hill. Far away. Oh, look, there, that's what he was after. It was a mongoose to the left there, Ferg, coming out of the termite mound. Yes. The calling. Alarm calling. Oh, did you get chased by lions? Shame, little mongoose. There's actually two there. Can you hear through the ambient light, Ferg? That's the banded mongoose alarm calling. And that's why you should have been in bed earlier. Shame. A bit of a scary experience for the mongoose. I think they were just out that little bit too late. And they are strictly diurnal animals. They do as soon as it gets to night, you're never going to catch them. They are never going to pop out and come within your reach. As soon as it gets dark, mongoose go to bed in these termite mounds in their little den sites. Oh, sorry guys. Bit of a traumatic way to go to bed. Yeah. At least this particular line has figured out that really was not going to work. Most definitely not. Good try though. Good try. Octo Girly, you want to know if we can ID lions by the black marks on the back of their ears. I don't think there's really enough difference in the marks on the back of their ears to be able to properly identify them. I think you probably could, but it's not the best way to do so. It's much easier to look at their whisker spots. It's much easier to look at the nicks and the cuts in their ears. Yes, I suppose if you only see the backs of their ears, it might be useful, but researchers tend to focus on other identifying features. And I mean, the nuances, the differences in the black at the back of the ears would be so subtle between individuals so as to be really barely noticeable. So no, typically it would be a situation where you'd use the whisker spot patterns, the scars, or chips in the tooth, or something along those sorts of lines. You've got to be careful with scars though. Scars change. Okay, my girl. I'm just going to check and see. Oh, we've got a lioness walking towards some topi. She skipped past me. I didn't see her. I think the topi are well aware of her presence, but let's just keep up with her. Hold on. Woohoo! It's a very, very brief joyride. I know. Okay, so I'm going to take my spotlight off almost immediately because this lioness is walking in the direction of the topi. I think just beyond. There we go. Oh, those are not topi, those are Tommies. That is a Thompson's gazelle. Alright, let's try and get up a bit closer. It's a tricky situation because we have to make sure we keep our headlights off her. We have to go sideways. Hold on. I think it's safe to say that Tommies have seen her. She doesn't look like she's stalking them. But you never know. Sometimes panic will be all that a lioness needs in her recipe to be able to hunt something. Off they dash. I don't think they were her intended targets. I know there are some wildebeest down this crest. She's actually the most well-fed of all the lions. Most definitely by far. She's got the fullest belly. I'm just checking to see if the rest of the pride is following her. Otherwise, I'm inclined to say she's on her way to go and feed cubs. And there you go, you can just see the Tommies dashing about in the background. You can just see their eyes glowing. So I'm not going to follow her. I can't see if she's got suckle marks or not. But she does look a little bit round-bellied. I'm going to stay with the rest of the pride. That is what I'm going to do. Always a tough call to make. Trying to work out exactly which, especially when the pride splits, exactly which members to follow. In this case, I'm going to try and make a judgment call. I'm going to let her move slowly but surely towards double crossing. There's another reason, and that is the fact that I'm not 100% sure how stable our signal will be down that way. We're in a bit of an in-between spot. That's okay, the rest of the pride is still around. Let's go back and catch up with them. One down, 10 more to go. Let's just settle here for now, and directly in front of us. I'm going to wait and see which direction these lions head in. And while we wait patiently with our lions, let's go back to the evening in South Africa to find out how it's going.
Well, we're still sitting here with Thandi, and can you believe it? It's starting to rain, so we had to quickly put all our rain covers on. It's not a hard rain just yet. It's a soft, drizzly, wet kind of rain that's just going to make everything damp and eventually start dripping, and it's not very pleasant in this cold weather, I must be honest. So hopefully it doesn't get any heavier. If it got any heavier, it's not going to be very pleasant at all out here. But at this stage, everything is covered up, so we're good to go. And Thandi is completely unperturbed by the rain. You can see her tail is still kind of flapping in the breeze, and she's passed out as much as possible with a big full belly. You can see that round belly that is hanging down between the boughs of that tree. So she's got a nice big belly and a very unladylike pose at this stage. So you can see her paws and the tail is moving quite a bit because of the wind that is blowing. Right, so Lou and Megan have decided that the winner is Kimmy with the Cavalcade of Carnivores, so that's how we shall refer to days like today in the future. There we go. So that's how it's going to go. Cavalcade of Carnivores is what we will try and seek out as much as possible in the next bit with the Mara. Obviously the Mara will help with that quite a bit, and they provide a lot of the spotted characters in terms of the cheetah, and well, lions for them seems to be a lot easier than what we have with our lions here, and we've had all the luck with the leopards and the wild dogs, so that's okay. It's a nice combination between the two. But I can tell you one thing, is that as much as Thandi might be happy up in her tree, it is really becoming quite foul out here at the moment. It's the rain that I'm watching coming past me, it's quite funny. It's actually coming horizontally, not vertically down. The wind is blowing so hard that the rain literally is just pounding down from a horizontal angle. It's very unpleasant, and I once again made a rookie error this afternoon, because I saw it kind of brightening up before we left and it was not too bad outside, so I thought I'll go with shorts again. Failure of note. I've now had a situation where I'm absolutely freezing and my legs are being pelted with rain, and it's just really not gone well at all, and the lack of a door means it's going to be a nice long ride home and a nice wet ride home, so interesting journey back to camp. But there you can see paws that have done many a kilometer or a mile. They've been up and down the Sabi sands and have traveled some serious distance through life, so those paws have certainly done a lot. You can imagine in her 10 or 11 years of existence has really done a lot of movement, and a lot of trees have been climbed, I would imagine, with those paws. And so she's really done a lot. Now hopefully, like I say, she is going to move and she's going to reposition herself and come down the tree towards the carcass, because the carcass is much lower down, and if we get a little bit lower we'll actually see her feeding quite nicely. If she doesn't move, well, later we will try and get towards the carcass, so you can just see her legs of the carcass there hanging down, and so if she doesn't, we'll reposition a little bit later and try and actually see the carcass itself. But you can see the legs dangling in the breeze, and the complete different shape of an antelope's legs as opposed to a predator's, with that hoof and the very narrow leg that allows them to be able to position themselves, or to be able to run with speed and turn and be quite light, but they don't have the power because they don't have to actually pull things down with those legs. James, you say chances of seeing rhino are quite slim, well, especially now it's gotten a little dark, but 6 out of the magnificent 7 in one day really isn't bad at all. And I suppose if we could show rhinos on Djuma, we would have been able to maybe pull that off today, given that there were some that we actually passed on our travels during the day today. So we would have had all of the 7, but unfortunately we can only see the rhinos in the Mara, and today was not our lucky day. We had them yesterday, but so in the last 24 hours we've had the magnificent 7, if we think about it that way. Let's be on the positive side of this life rather than on the negative side. So in 24 hours we have managed to see the magnificent 7 plus even hyenas as well. So now these guys are busy talking about it and talking about this kill, and they're saying that there's no kill, but the guys haven't looked at the base of the, well, in the tree itself. Yeah, the kill's in the tree, Jamie and Holly, right here next to her. So the guys are not able to see the kill at all, but the kill is right here, as I was just pointing out to them. So she does have her kill up the tree, which is fantastic news, because once it's up the tree it means things like hyenas are not going to be able to rob her, and we're going to be able to have a situation to see her for the next few days rather than them sort of eating it and then her disappearing from the area. Right, now I'm going to sit and try and shelter from this cold wind and rain and try and probably hide myself under the rain covers like most of Rusty. And while we do that, I believe Jamie is out and about. I think she's still with the lions at the moment. I would imagine so, given that I think both her and Taylor's lions are fairly hungry. So let's go back to her and see what they're up to and whether they're stalking in the darkness of the Mara.
It's been absolutely unbelievable. It's one of the most amazing sounds to hear when you're out in Africa, and it's, well, one of the sounds that often make a trip to Africa. Fish eagles, lions roaring, elephants trumpeting if you're lucky, and the hyenas, of course, whooping, or even an elephant, a leopard soaring. But roar right next to the car, and then earlier to have the entire Angama pride and these males all roaring twice was spectacular. It sent shivers down my spine. Whew. The adrenaline is still pumping. It really is amazing. And there were also a lot, I think there's going to be some territorial disputes, because there were lions calling from all corners of the triangle during this too. So everybody's responding to the calls of the different prides. So I wonder where these boys are off to next. Now, the male on the right, remember yesterday I said they looked like one of them had a couple of scratches. This is the same male, and he's actually got two rather large wounds. One in his front left leg. You can't see it now, of course, because he's moving away. And then he also had another one on his right side. They look like bite marks, I would suspect. I'm just thinking, I don't know if they're going to roar again so soon. They're also not really hunting at the moment. The fact that they are being quite noisy means that they're probably on a territorial patrol. They're marking their territories not only by using their voice, but they're also scent marking every now and then as well. Now, Julie, you're wondering if big cats purr? I haven't heard a leopard purr, I haven't heard a lion purr, but I do know that cheetahs can purr. It's quite an amazing sound. It reminds me of a motorbike. I've heard it only twice, but I have not heard the big cats. The lions and leopards, I don't think they can make that. That's scrub hair. Lucky scrub hair. I don't think these lions would be too fussed about you. There they are again. Off they go, just casually strolling down the road. And the only other thing that I can hear is some crickets, the odd frog every now and then, and the montane nightjars that it's a little bit more high pitched than that. And off they go. Just waiting to see. I was about to say, I'm going to wait to see if they're going to roar again. Never mind. He has stopped for a sleep, the tailless Chitwa male. He's decided he's had enough walking around. He's just going to have a quick nap over there. And that's fine. Very cool. Maybe they're exhausted from all the roaring they've done already this evening. Oh, the male's not stopping. He's going. So I wonder where the third male lion is. I don't know where he could be. He could honestly be, well, anyway. Maybe he decided not to hang around. Maybe he's still with the Angama pride. Obviously, I didn't see all three of them this morning. I definitely saw two males. But it is hard to tell when they're so far away. And also when the grass is so long. Fast asleep. Amazing how you can just flop down onto the ground and go to sleep like that. I'm a little bit envious. Okay, well, let's let these boys carry on with their patrol. Let's go back towards the lionesses. They're still quite far away from us, but we'll go all the way back around and see what they're up to. They could have moved by now too. Good to try it. Oh, I knew that was too good to be true. I thought I heard a lion roaring again, but it wasn't. Now, Proud Cat Mama, sorry, as I reverse here, wondering if all male lions have manes. No, you get maneless males as well. So, there's definitely been quite a few cases of that being reported, whether it's just maybe a lack of testosterone. I don't know what would cause the lack of a mane. I mean, there's stories of lionesses with manes too. Too much testosterone. Okay, but let's go around. Lots of little midges, and they keep going up my nose. Ah, ticklish. Okay, a little bit bumpy here. So it's very difficult to try and drive and be on the radio and spotlight It's not the easiest thing, especially when the roads aren't flat and you're having to constantly change gear all the time to go through some of these small depressions. Not like we're driving automatics, we're driving manuals. Now the earpiece is falling out, that's always a winner. Okay, we're going to keep searching and hopefully we'll bump back into the Angamas. Jamie's still with her lions. Let's go see what they're up to.
They're up to, well, what they were doing for most of the afternoon as well. Having a little bit of a, I suppose you could call it a lion. Haha. And they're having a late start to their evening. Perhaps just waiting for the wildebeest to come to them. I can hear wildebeest canoeing off to the north of me. I think that's the way that these lions are going to go. But it seems as though the departure of the one female has left the rest unenthused in terms of following suit. Quick glance up at us every now and again, listening to the sounds of the night. It's amazingly quiet out here sometimes. Astoundingly quiet. Some nights we have nights that are just filled with the lions roaring the entire time, and other times they're completely silent the entire time. Patty, a lovely, lovely question that takes us back to what was actually quite an unusual sighting. You say, well, would lions actually go after a mongoose? I thought mongooses were mean, and that you're sort of unfamiliar with the nature of a mongoose. Yes, absolutely, young lions will. You'll find adults are less likely to do it unless a mongoose runs right in front of them and it sort of triggers that cat-like chase response. But otherwise, it's usually the youngsters that practice their hunting skills on a mongoose. I think you might be thinking of the honey badger, which is much more of a handful. Yes, a mongoose can bite and can scratch, and I'd say that from personal experience, but it would really be no match even for a young lion, if it were able to catch them, of course. It's unusual, though, for lions to catch mongoose. It's far more common for young leopards. Oh, are we going to yawn? Are we going to roar? Are we going to yawn and roar? Rawn? Yaw? I'm not sure what word you'd use. But honey badgers, of course, are much more of a handful. They're much larger than the mongoose species, and they belong to a different family completely. And the thing about a honey badger is that it has a reputation for being completely fearless. I wouldn't say that they're fearless, but they are very, very brave little animals with very loose skin. And often young lions discover that far too late, once they've grabbed the honey badger, and the honey badger can actually turn around. Its skin hangs so loose on its body that it's much more agile in those sorts of situations, and will turn around and fight and bite and hiss and spit and generally speaking go completely crazy. And a lot of the time lions just avoid attacking honey badgers for that reason. A lot of them have learnt their lesson. When it really comes down to it, a lion most likely will be able to kill a honey badger. But there are rare stories of honey badgers actually attacking and killing lions. Tiny little creature. It goes for the softer parts of the lion. Very unusual, though. I mean, it's not nearly as common as people think it is. LM, there is a reason that these cats save most of their hunting for nighttime. They do hunt during the day, but apart from the cooler temperatures, it's also the fact that the prey animals can see better than we can at night. Let's put it that way. Their night vision is better than ours, and they will be able to see a lion stalking, but it is not as good as the lions. The lions can see, I think it's something like 8 times better than a human being at night, or even more than that. They make use, their eyes are adapted to make use of every little jot of ambient light, the reflective layer at the back of their eye, and the high number of certain cells in the retina to help them be able to see. So they see very well. Their prey animals see better than us, but not as well as the predators do. And a lot of the time that's why they clump together in the open spaces. Well, we wait and see what these lions decide to do. I'm not sure whether Tristan was still with his leopard or if he's moved on, but let's go and see what he has planned for the last 15 minutes or so, or 10 minutes of our sunset safari.
Woo, no hands. Down into the Mulawati we go. No, I'm just kidding. We just coming down to the Mulawati, we left Thandi. There was a couple of vehicles that were from Chitwa that wanted to go, and she was still lying in exactly the same place, not actually doing anything, so we just left her to herself and started meandering our way home. Maybe we'll get a little glimpse of her son as we start heading back towards camp. We've been waylaid a little bit by a vehicle in front of us, which we are going to leave right there because I don't feel like eating their dust any longer whatsoever. So we're going to go past Tundams quickly, and we're going to head north up Tundams Road, and maybe little Tumba is around somewhere along the lines. Now, I actually haven't even radioed anybody to tell them that I'm back on Djuma, so I don't know if he is around. Hopefully he won't be somewhere with a lot of vehicles and I won't bump into a sighting, because that will be a bit awkward. We'll certainly have to do a bit of explaining in that regard. We don't want to be those guys that do those kind of things. Little Thickney, out the way, come on. You didn't have to fly, you just had to run off the road. Thickneys are not the brightest birds that we have out here. They tend to sit and kind of in the most peculiar places, and the other day we saw one with Osana kind of moving around him and then wanting to sit right next to him, and then got quite upset when it couldn't, which is really quite odd, because at the end of the day you'd think that a bird would go away from a predator, not towards it. Now I just want to scan Tundams, make sure there's no little leopard lurking anywhere there. We know how they like this area and how they like to lurk around the waterhole itself, so just making 100% sure. Dory, the reason why we removed the door from the vehicles is because, well, we wanted to have a competition of chicken and who could basically lose a leg first. That was the real reason. Of course, everybody else will tell you about other things, but the real reason was to see if anybody would lose a leg by doing it, and it was just a dare that we had. No, I'm just kidding, of course it's not that at all. The reason why we removed the door is basically two reasons. One is that we can see tracks a lot more effectively than what we would if we didn't have a door. So for me it's easy, I can just stare out the side of my kind of car and I can be able to see what's going on right next to me and see what tracks are moving up and down the road. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is that we spend a lot of time getting in and out of the car, well, some more than others. I tend to be a lot more car based than some of the other guys. The other guys tend to spend a lot of time in and out, and it's just much easier to jump in and out and then without having to open a door, close the door, and it makes a lot of noise opening and closing the door. So for us it's just much nicer to not have it, and most of us have actually started in lodges that didn't have doors, so we just get used to it. Really, it's much nicer not to have it than it is to have it, except when you have weather like this, when it's cold and when it's rainy, then your legs get a little bit pounded. But other than that, it's very nice. In the summer months when it's hot, it's far more pleasant because you get a bit of a breeze around your feet. It's far nicer than when you don't have it, that's for sure. I mean, than when you do have it. But that's the real reasons. It's just from a tracking point of view and a getting in and out point of view, and also a noise situation. We don't have to bang doors every time we get back in the car when we're talking to all of you guys. It just makes life a lot easier. Not great for our earpieces though. I think the earpieces wish we still had doors on, especially if I'm driving. We know how dangerous it is to be an earpiece on this vehicle. Well, not Rusty. Actually, Rusty's far better because Rusty's got like a little enclosed area that I can tuck the cable into, and the cable stays there a lot nicer. And I haven't broken too many cables on Rusty. It's really Wendy that is the cable problem, because her place where I plug in the earpiece is quite exposed, and so that's where the cables get picked up. Rusty's is far better because it's a little bit more kind of hidden, so I might do a little amendment to Wendy's system and just change her around slightly just to try and help with that and alleviate that issue that we had. I just did a little loop here quickly just to see if there wasn't any sign of our boy Wonder Tumba, who was seen here this morning, so just having a little scan around for him. I'm pretty sure he's curled up in a tight ball somewhere. If he's not got food or is not hunting, he's going to be curled up much like our dogs were at the beginning of the afternoon, trying to spend as much time kind of staying warm and comfortable and out of this nonsense weather that we're having. I'm all for rain, but it must be proper rain, not rain like this, because this is just horrid stuff. Now, No sign of little Tumba, unfortunately. I was hoping and praying he would be his and would be a last minute leopard for us, but I suppose we had leopard already on this drive, so we don't have to stress. And so while I meander my way home to try and get nice and dry and to get out of all of this, let's go back to Tayla McCurdy with her lions, and hopefully they'll put on an audio display to finish the evening.
Very sweet. The little ones were even attempting, they were making all sorts of strange, high-pitched, but also gurgly sounds. They quite are not ready to roar just yet, but very exciting nonetheless. It's been quite some time since I last sat next to lions as they roared away. It's not something that you hear often in the distance, that you be right up where the action is. It's not very often, so that was very, very pleasant. But the little ones are still exhausted. That one's chewing on a stick. Others are laying flat on their back. There were some that were playing about just now, but that was very short-lived. And there's a lioness. Looks like a lioness. Oh, there's a couple of lions there. My goodness, they really are hidden in the grass today. Especially with the infrared light on. I find it sometimes it can be quite tricky when they're laying flat like that to actually spot how many lions are there. They look like they're going to wake up, so I wonder which direction they're going to head in. There's another lioness. She looks very comfortable. She doesn't look like she's going to be moving anytime soon. And again, lots of insects about. You can see them all fluttering past your screen. Hear all the sounds of the night as well. Maybe we can do that. Let's listen to them. Isn't that amazing, all those insects? Well, it's maybe a bone that it's eating. Gromit, you're wondering what are the most difficult things when we're out at night, other than the lighting problems? Off-road, being restricted as to where you can and can't drive, that can sometimes get a bit tricky, but we can work around it. What else? And then driving, you know, especially when it's you've just had a downpour of 50 mils of rain, trying to shine a spotlight, respond to vinyl control, and stay on the road is very difficult. We'll have a little listen. Sounded like there was a lion wanting to roar again. No, one lioness starting. There's many difficult things. Some of them you get used to it, just from experiencing spending time out in the field. Otherwise, there's actually very few problems that you'll encounter out here. It just depends what the animals are doing too. If they're willing to take you through tricky spots, or actually not, or better yet, across open plains where it's easy to drive and there's no holes to fall in. That's also a little bit on the better side. But it has been a wonderful afternoon out, filled with a variety of cat species, not just this afternoon, but today as well. And I hope that you all enjoyed it just as much as every single one of us did. Have a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you may be. And remember to join us again for the sunrise.